Hello, everybody, and welcome back. We are so pleased to bring to you today The Future is Female, Women Reimagining Leadership panel. This is the third panel of the week for the She's Me conference, and we're so excited to welcome our speakers here today, some speaking at this year's conference and some from previous conferences. So thank you, everyone, for being here. We're going to go around the room and introduce everybody to you. So, Jamie.
Awesome. I'm Jamie Martin. I'm hired by senior level women in STEM who are ready to assert their authority and expertise in order to get paid what they're worth and get the credit they deserve.
Thank you. Danielle.
Hi, I'm Danielle Fournier. I'm the CEO and head shaman at Modern Shaman. I help artists, athletes, and creatives with their entrepreneurship, and I'm a working medicine person.
Thank you. Dr. K-Tap.
Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. K-Tap. I am the founder of Glow Coaching. I'm a Mayo Clinic trained physician with over 10 years of experience in the wellness field. And what we do at Glow Coaching is to help high achieving women let go of the overwork, let go of the burnout, and lead with more calm, confidence, and authentic leadership.
Thank you. Deanne.
Hi, everybody. Great to be here. My name is Deanne Awesome. I am the founder and CEO of ThriveWell Partners. I do executive and leadership coaching, facilitation, workshops, keynotes, really helping organizations, teams, and leaders to thrive and integrate life and work and build a healthy routine.
Thank you. Maile.
Aloha mai kako. I'm Maile Alau. I'm from Honolulu, Hawaii, and I am the leader for Pilina Palena Ole Connections Without End. So we work in the leadership development space, but also we do work in strategic planning, team development, all of those things, but really focusing on Pilina or connection as the heart and the center of how all of that works best. So I'm really excited to be here.
Thank you. Berenice.
Hi, everyone. My name is Bernice Soto. I am the founder of BGS Evolution. I am a leadership coach. I am also an energy healer and author. And through BGS Evolution, we provide workshops, keynotes, and facilitate programs for advocating domestic violence, as well as inner healing for leadership and authentic and accepting, more than anything, imperfections.
Thank you. Silke.
Hi, I'm Silke Harvey. I'm a speaker, musician, author, and also the founder of Female Leaders Rising, which is a global movement for women who've already succeeded and who are now ready to use their leadership, voice, and vision to build a more just, inclusive, and prosperous world for all women.
Lori.
Hi, everybody. I'm Lori Smith. I am a soulful speaking and leadership coach, CEO of Voice Matters, author and speaker, and I love to help wild-hearted leaders and loving rebels to transform the vibe in the room when they speak so they can ignite meaningful change.
Thank you. Yvonne.
Hi, everyone. I'm Yvonne Schodson, a Hollywood producer, story strategist, and attorney, and I help people ignite your brand with telling your stories like Hollywood so you never have to sell again.
That's fantastic. Thank you all so much for being here. The session is designed to spark transformation, truth-telling, and forward motion for all women. Bring your lived experience, insight, and your vision for change. Be bold, be raw, and be real. Our first question: what happens when women stop imitating old systems of power, and begin leading from who they truly are? Anyone want to take that first? Yes, Lori.
Hi, everybody. When we stop contorting ourselves into old, outdated leadership and speaking models, that were designed for a different era and start moving from soul and leading from who we truly are, leadership enters the new era where it's not about dominance anymore. It starts being about clear direction and magnetism and inspiration and invitation. And when it's not about commanding a room and more about invitation, that's when we can transform the room through our presence and our intuition and our truth, which is how we can transform the world from the inside, starting with ourselves, out to the rooms we're in, out to the whole world.
Miley.
I want to just build on what Lori said. I think we've grown up and been modeled a world where we have to win, and where winning becomes the ultimate prize. And as soon as we stop looking at it as winning and look at it as more as collaborating, which is very feminine, that changes everything, right? We have to unlearn the model of you got to win.
Agreed. Jamie.
Oh, I'm glad you said that, because it's one of the things that I think is fascinating about corporate America is that it's all about the winning. And you look at the AI race right now, and it's everybody racing to a finish line that does not exist.
Yes.
And when we take out that winning and we say, hey, wait a second, what are we doing for the good of all? We're actually raising everybody up. And that's what I hear also in what Maylee and Lori said, is that invitation to say we're in this together, and there is no real competition even between companies, because there's enough for everybody.
There is enough for everybody. You're absolutely right. That is a great point. And you're right. The AI race, I was at Microsoft for 3 years, and that was the constant talk about merging groups and who was going to lead, and the AI group was going to lead, and how we were going to get ahead, and so on and so forth. And even one of the all hands meetings, the very first statement that was made by the CEO said, all we care about is the bottom line. That was the very first statement. Dr. K-Tap.
I have 2 points to make. And I think, when we say the word winning, maybe we should just change that definition. What does winning mean for all of us? And when Jamie said that there is enough for everybody, and that is us shifting from that scarcity mindset to that abundant mindset, where there is enough there is more than enough for everyone. So if we're able to come from that lens, then we're able to come together, because we know that there's no scarcity involved.
Right. Yeah. So what are the hidden costs of performing strength instead of living from authenticity? Bernice?
I think that I think the first thing is accepting that strength is very costly, because it costs us energy, connection, and clarity. I think that when we're focusing more on the strength rather than being authentic, we're just trying to fit, and then we get exhausted. We ended up even having trust issues in ourselves, because we are focusing more on the decisions that we got to make and what we want to portray out there. So really, it's more about really being authentic, and then being our authentic selves that gives us the strength of what we want to portray out there, and then helping and making that change that we want to create.
Deanne?
Yeah, I love this question, and I love where we're going with authenticity. So in my coaching work, I meet a lot of women, leaders who have been rewarded for their resilience, but they're absolutely exhausted by their constant performance of strength. And really, the hidden cost that may not always be obvious or able to be easily named is disconnection. And it's disconnection from ourself, from our purpose, from our joy. So I would say, the true strength, depending on how we're going to define strength, really doesn't require a lot of armor, but it's really found more in how we integrate confidence and vulnerability. Because when we truly do lead from that place of authenticity, which only each of us can do in our own unique, authentic way, then we stop we stop managing impressions and start inspiring trust a little bit differently.
Danielle.
Yes, and following up with this, that why is softness not strength? I think it's reimagining some of our leadership. Really, is what are we looking for strength? Is strength in the individual, in the group, in what kind of behavior? Because we do need strength, but our versions of winning and success around a certain type of, lack of emotion, lack of compassion, never giving in, resilience as endurance. When we start to reimagine, and I know we're going to talk about other parts of leadership later, what does that look like? And we really have to step outside of the system that created it to start reimagining new ways of doing it.
Right. How can emotional intelligence, empathy, and intuition become leadership superpowers rather than liabilities? And I think we're definitely moving in that direction, because I'm seeing all of those words. And one of the reasons why I wrote this question, seeing all of those words in a lot of marketing out there for new leadership, right? Silke.
I think the real superpower behind empathy and intuition is that we know how to connect with people on a more emotional level, and that includes partners in business, team members, employees. And by doing so, we actually develop a much closer bond with these people, so therefore create better teams, create better relationships in business, and also gain more respect as a leader person, because people who can relate to you and know that you respect them will respect you. So therefore, the whole corporate culture, the whole business culture is actually elevated through those elevated relationships.
Right? And it's about trust and community and caring. And when you know that your team trusts you and you trust them, you're in the flow, right? Jamie.
This is a hard one, because I see a lot of women who fall into doing these and are great at it. But the problem is we're now in a place where, because it's being highlighted at such a level, it's becoming performative. And not necessarily the women in the group that are leading, but you see some ones are performative with men. And I say this because I actually had my old boss look at me at one point and said, you're the only person I know who is truly a servant leader, and you've never called yourself a servant leader before, but all the other people call themselves servant leaders. And so we as women have the hard place of putting ourselves in the position where we lead from this place, but we're in a zone where not everybody respects it and understands it. And so there is a place where we are going to have to rewire the rest of the world around how it looks, what it truly means, and that when we lead from that place, from intuition, from empathy for everybody, we actually create better products and better experiences overall. That's a big leap for a lot of CEOs and C-suite people to make. So I'm seeing the changes in certain leaders, but it is a very long journey we have before we get to the place where it's truly where we're at. That's why I think it's better I would love to have a call for women to start owning tech companies more and more, and businesses more and more, and hiring people, because when we lead at the top, we can actually infiltrate it more.
Right. Yep. Absolutely. Danielle.
So I think one thing that you point out that is great is that we can't just co-opt a term, right, without understanding what does intuition really mean? What does empathy mean? What is it? And using it as a gut feeling, because so much gut decisions, especially right now in our highly charged world, aren't good, intuitive, self-led, knowing myself and how I meet the world, my version of intuition, right? As much as I made a gut decision. I think that when you're co-opting those things, it becomes popular, but what does it really mean? And partly from what are the results? Are we creating better products? We're creating more aligned things for ourselves and for our clients, and in all of the industries, right?
So I think as we move along this journey and transitioning into women leaders and a women-led world, that we're truly using these things, intelligence, empathy, and intuition. Those who are using terms but not embodying those things will drop out, right? They will fade away, because it only takes a short time, especially if you are using those skills and those superpowers, to know who is embodying them and who is just saying it, right? What does collaboration look like when it's rooted in sisterhood and community instead of competition, which is the patriarchal way, right? Bernice?
I love this question because I think that this is what makes part of She Is Me. Here we are, we have all these coaches in this call right now, and we can all learn about each other. But I think that when we look it into sisterhood and not competition, we realize how we're all gifted in different ways, how we can both co-create, how we both can mentor each other, or all of us. And I keep saying both, but I mean in general, it opens so much avenues of growth. And I have seen it where in the past year, with collaborating alone, is like what comes easy to me, that I'm like, oh, I could get that done for you in 5 minutes. The other person is like an awe moment, because it's like, Bernice, I've been working on that for like 3 days or a week, and you just finished it. And it's about that. It's about really, really putting the light and shining that person and saying, this person can help you with that. Go with that person. And then other areas where I could be like, hey, I can help you with that because it easily comes to me. So it's about working smarter and not harder, but really more than anything, putting that platform and making that shine light for that other individual and helping them grow too in the areas that they're gifted in. Is as simple as that.
Yeah. Deanne?
I love this question. And if I could find my clapping hands emoji or heart emojis, I would definitely be sending them out. But I love moving from competition to collaboration. So in my early career, collaboration did feel a lot like competition at times. Who could contribute the most? Who could move the fastest? Who could shine the brightest? But when we have these spaces like this and other spaces that I'm grateful to find myself in, when we're in those spaces truly rooted in sisterhood, that dynamic tends to dissolve. So I have seen and felt the impact of women amplifying each other's voices in the boardrooms, in conferences, creating synergy instead of scarcity. That was a term brought up earlier. And so I really feel strongly when collaboration is built on trust and mutual uplift, success multiplies exponentially rather than dividing. So in short, Lisa, I think sisterhood turns competition into collaboration, and collaboration can become collective success.
I agree. Lori?
Very similar yes and comments over here too. The idea that we celebrate each other's gifts without allowing the appreciation of someone else's gifts to even mean less about us, that we understand and we model for the world. We all have different gifts. And when we really embrace that, we start to have a sisterhood and a collaboration. And that's where we can really rise together so that it's a co-creative experience rather than a false or a true hierarchy. Like whether it's on an org chart or I'm making myself less in the face of someone else's gift, that's a hierarchy. When we embrace the differences, we're co-creating something together.
Right. And I love that co-creation word. And And we need to remember that not everybody is not awake as we are about this subject. So there are a lot of, just as the women who are using these terms and not embodying them, there are still a lot of women who are looking for collaboration, but are, still in that model of competition and I don't know how you would say it, like getting as much as they can, like draining you of your talents for their benefit. So Danielle.
So I think I'd like to bring up, for those of us who grew up in Indigenous communities, we have a lot of experiences. And when you realize that other people experiences of collaboration. So growing up in hula, growing up in halau, paddling a 6-man canoe where everybody is the same, except for the steersman. But to not have those experiences, where do we learn them? We have to create them, right? Women are still set against each other and we come in together, but we don't have enough practice in business or entrepreneurship, I think, in this particular structure of being able to work together. And if you don't have community situations like that, where you're used to show up, everybody's the same, everybody brings food, everybody hugs, everybody kisses, everybody cleans up, no one's like, everybody's special and no one's special. That's true circle. And being able to listen when Indigenous women talk about this experience is different of living in this collaborative society, but also living under patriarchy, and realizing that there's some great keys when people invite you to those situations. Say yes.
Jamie.
Dr. K-Tap actually had her hand first.
Oh, I'm sorry, Dr. K-Tap.
Thanks, Jamie. It's piggybacking on what Danielle was saying. It's really the gift that keeps on giving. And if we're able to, the word trust was used by Deanne a little bit earlier, right? If there's trust within ourselves, then that's easier to then trust other people to come together and uplift one another. We're evolutionary beings. We're not here to be stagnant. So if we're able to bring our gifts and not get, as you were saying, Lisa, but truly give, then that's going to come back to you just like a boomerang. We're energetic beings. So as you give, so shall you receive. Maybe not in the exact same way that you give, but it's going to come back to you so much more.
Agreed. Jamie.
So I want to kind of go back to grounding it for people who aren't in this zone of coaching, because collaboration, when you first said the question, I thought of a circle immediately. That was the first thing, where if you think about a circle is never ending and everybody's the same distance from the center. When I think of competition, though, I'm thinking of we're standing at a line and we're racing somewhere. And you see everybody in this group right now is doing the yes and. That is true collaboration in the sense of the circle, where we're building each other up and building our idea up. And when we can get into that place of collaboration, and you think about it at a business level of ideas and brainstorming, you get to a pinnacle at some point where all of a sudden the idea has come from the collective and not in groupthink mode, right, where it's everybody saying yes, but actually contributing. And that is true collaboration, when everybody can start to contribute because they're bouncing ideas off of each other.
Deanne, did you have your hand up?
I didn't, only if I was going to do my snaps or more hearts.
Yvonne.
So a strategy that helps shift the paradigm of competition like none other is the absolutely singularly potent strategy of storytelling. I recently had an opportunity to go into a Fortune 500 company where I was called in because there was tension in the team and they were about to embark on a huge new product endeavor. And it's a company you would all recognize. And bringing everybody together and having them share their story with a initiating opportunity to talk about who they were was so transformative. And an example is that their leader, who wore Armani suits, was very stiff, was very formal, and had been in that position for 12 years, shared the story. She was from the Central Valley of California, how when she was a little girl, her father, they were sharecroppers. Her father's dream, he loved cars. And she told the story of how one morning they drove their car into a gas station after he had just finished. It was an Edsel. I don't know if you remember them. They were huge cars and gas guzzlers. And in front of the whole family, the station attendant refused to serve them because of their ethnicity. And she told the story of how they drove out and shortly after ran out of gas. And in her Sunday finery, her white shoes and her fluffy dress, she and her dad had to walk for 3 hours to get a can of gas. And she shared how she was determined to rise up and one day give her dad a new car. And she was able to do that because of this position she had. And when she finished telling her story, there wasn't a dry eye in the room. People who had worked side by side with her never had any idea the heritage of coming up from that hardship that she hid. And when I came back 3 weeks later, they reported that the harmony had so shifted in the team and the productivity was on track to be the winning group. It's storytelling, and it's such a simple strategy. And I think it breaks the paradigm.
Wonderful. That's why we do what we do here. How do we balance compassion with boundaries, which is very hard for some, leading with heart without losing our power? Dr. K-Tap.
It's a really beautiful question. It's important for us to know who we are in order to lead others. And as long as we know that where we're leading from, the intention behind what we're doing is most important. We cannot control what other people are going to say or do or behave. But if our intention is coming from that pure place of kindness, of compassion, of strength, yes, easier said than done to put in those boundaries. But if we can remember that, if we're coming from that place of love and kindness, I think that's a very important approach to take when you're both creating boundaries as well as keeping them, because it's very important. It's very easy to create boundaries and not keep them and maintain them, but creating them and keeping them is so important by showing up with that intention behind what you're doing and then how you're delivering that message to the other person.
Berenice?
I'm going to go along with that, but I'm going to play the other side as well. I think that we also have to learn as leaders how to be direct and practice kind language, because many times we have to learn how to speak our priorities to others, because what might be killing us and saying like, okay, this needs to be done, especially when we're working together in a collaborative project, it might not be the same priority to the other person. But if we know how to communicate that and we know how to speak, with direct and kind language and set our boundaries, our deadlines, whatever it is required, then they'll have that respect for us. And then mutually we will be able to function together or push the project or whatever it is forward.
Silke.
It's really important as well as a leader, especially if we show compassion and kindness, which is often mistaken for weakness, especially in the corporate world. I think it's very important for us personally to learn how to say no, because that's a real big issue for many people, and especially women, because we've been taught traditionally and in society never to say no and always like agree with everything. So if we actually learn that no in itself is a complete sentence, and we really embody this, and we learn how to say the word no without feeling guilty, without feeling shame, and all the negatives that are associated with it, then it will become easier to lead with compassion, because you can be kind, you can, treat people with respect. But if a line needs to be drawn in the sand, you just say the word no and you actually mean it. That's the important thing, to actually mean it. Like it was brought up before, to actually set your boundaries and keep to them. So I think we need to learn the word no and do the inner work that's necessary for that, to lose all the inhibitions around the word, because that is the key to it all. Because no is not a negative word, not really. It's a word that empowers, and it's a word that gives us the opportunity to lead fully and to lead as good as we possibly can, without then losing our power or being taken advantage of by other people.
Who is next? Deanne?
I think we may have all come up at the same time.
Okay, sorry.
I just wanted to add on to what Silke was just sharing. And I think no is a complete sentence, not yet is a complete sentence, and not now is a complete sentence, because maybe the timing is off for whatever reason. And I had the very big honor previously in my career to actually sit down and interview Brene Brown. And she said something that I'll never forget. And it was, clear is kind, unclear is unkind. So we have to use kind language. We have to act with kindness and with empathy, of course. But I don't think that our boundaries weaken compassion. I think they actually help sustain it. And they actually also help turn empathy into that renewable resource, instead of becoming emotional drain and exhaustion and burnout when we don't have the courage to set some of those boundaries in place in a very clear and kind way, whether it's no, not yet, or not now.
Mm-hmm. Lori.
Thank you. I'd love to help the world stop breaking things into binaries, because I think the idea of having an open-hearted power or a dominating power, the world just loves to break things into opposites. So most of the Western world thinks that aggressive and meek are the only two options. They don't understand that there's a physical difference between an aggressive power and an assertive, open-hearted, leading with heart power. Aggressive is like leaning forward, lots of tension in the body. Meek is caving in. And then open-hearted is the third way, where my heart is open and I can say yes, I can say no, and I am still open enough, both with my heart being soft and my eyes being able to see the screen and also see others in the room around me. And if we can help the world demystify that, it makes it easier to find the zone of compassion and an open heart. And it also helps show others the way to understand that assertiveness and aggressiveness are not actually the same thing. And assertiveness has a kind of radiating power where it's coming out of our being 360 degrees in every direction. And aggressiveness is more shooting out the front of the body like a fire hose.
Miley.
I that phrase, Deanne, from Brene Brown is one of my absolute favorites, and I say it so many times that people are like, "Okay, we hear you," but it is there's also a great phrase from Radical Candor, which is care deeply and challenge directly, and it's one of the things that I think that is the superpower of women that we are constantly having to demonstrate. Like, just because we care deeply does not mean that we're not going to challenge you. That it's not either or. It's not the binary that Lori was talking to. It's both and we're sort of demonstrating both and in this conversation, right? Like, and I think, clear is kind, unclear is unkind is one of my big ones, but also both and, right? Like, it's yes and, like, there's these things do not have to be mutually exclusive. They're together and they're necessary. There's both sides of the coin are necessary. Everything is, it's all of those things together. So, gosh, I love this group of women. Okay, continue. Sorry.
I've had that discussion so many things. Like, two things can be true at once. It's okay. Yeah, Jamie.
I love Lori for what you brought into the table here, because that's what I was thinking, and I just couldn't put my finger on exactly what I was trying to bring to the table. Because when I heard compassion and boundaries, I actually don't think of them as opposite. And it occurred as an opposite, and it occurs oftentimes as an opposite in our society and the way we think of things. But when you're truly compassionate and somebody brings something to you, you're not taking it off. Your compassion comes from saying, what's the right question that they need in order to now go forward and move with it? And to Deanne's point about, like, no, not yet, and it's okay, and not right now, that's compassion for yourself. And when we have compassion for ourselves, we can also hold compassion for others. And so it's all of it kind of wrapped into a very messy bucket.
So what role does healing play in leadership? And I think we all know the answer to this question. And how do we integrate that into how we train and mentor others, especially women? Danielle.
Well, I think we really need to understand where we need to heal and what parts of it are broken, right? For ourselves, and for if we want to go out and change systems that we are in. I was a newspaper publisher for 25 years, and I was quickly educated on how dysfunctional leadership could be, especially in a male-dominated field. When we also have to understand that what we're looking at in our world right now, it doesn't feel healthy, but what part we need to go very deeply into that societal and psychological canyon of thought error that is hundreds of years old. Just to give some background, like, I have advanced degrees in ethnic studies and environmental expansion across the West. And when you look at history, we're playing out the same kind of thinking. We have to heal our ways we look at commodity in terms of people, resources, capital. What is our new capital, especially as we go into AI and all of these things? When we start healing any brokenness, and I'm gonna kind of go out here, and people can love it or hate it, but I believe a lot of our thinking right here comes from religious broken thinking from 1,000 years ago that still has us in original sin. And I'm not necessarily a religious person. I was very happy in the way I grew up in the church, and it gave me a path as a medicine person, as a priest, and as a counselor. And I love that. But when you loathe yourself, you will always be empty. And I think that's where this kind of, post-colonial world is, that brought this thought error with it. As we become aware of it, we have no choice but to heal, because once you see it, you can't do anything but change and go forward in a different way.
Jamie.
I was going to go somewhere totally different, but Danielle, I love that, because I look at our world today, and especially in the U.S., and it is so much tension. And the number of women I talk to right now who are just petrified, absolutely petrified. And yet, that's exactly what we need to do. Is we need to heal. We need to heal both the female side, but also the masculine side, because the masculine is feeling threatened so much that that's what's showing up right now. And so right now we're talking about the society, but as an individual, a lot of the work we have to do is realize that when we're repeating the patterns, I talk to a lot of my clients, and I ask them, and if you're looking for a new job, what's the thing that you want that's different? Because if we can drain the best resources from the companies that are toxic and bring them to the companies that are actually doing the good work and doing the leading from heart and openness, we are shifting society. And so a lot of times I work with my clients on letting go and releasing the toxicity that they're still carrying with them, that have them repeat over and over and over again the same job situation. I had to do that work myself over and over and over again because I saw the same pattern for myself.
How can we model leadership that celebrates rest, reflection, and regeneration as essential to success? And I believe that this just piggybacks off the previous question from healing, right? If we're healing and we're healed, then we are practicing those things in our leadership. Silke?
I think it's very important to create a culture and atmosphere in companies where things like taking a day off if you're sick or if you need some time off for your family is not feared, because right now in the corporate world in particular, people are scared senseless to ask for time off because it's regarded as a big minus on your record, and it is being noted that you have too many absences. So as a leader, what we can do in practical terms to actually encourage the rest and the healing that everybody needs is to ensure that everybody knows that it's okay to take time off, obviously for legitimate reasons. That there will have to be systems in place to make sure that it's not being taken advantage of. But I also think that the more as a leader we lean into the idea that it's okay to rest when necessary, actually this idea of taking advantage of and pulling sickies would actually get less, because people more and more realize that it's okay to rest, and then if they genuinely need to rest, they would not get penalized. So I think the whole system would start to recalibrate itself. And in the end, there would actually be a corporate culture where the systems are not even that necessary anymore. And people would be more confident in their work and more happy in their work because they know that there is not going to be any serious consequences, like the dreaded word with the boss that everyone had to deal with if they even asked for like 2 hours off to go to a doctor's in the morning, or that their kid had to go to somewhere with school and they can't even take their children because the boss says, well, if you're taking your kid to school this morning, I'm going to note that on your record, and the promotion is out of the window. So that all these penal systems for rest and recuperation need to disappear, and as leaders we can do that. We can put a culture into place where it's okay to rest.
Mm-hmm. Bernice?
I agree with Lisa too, that this goes along with the previous question, because I think that part of the key as being leaders is also making sure that we normalize healing and we make it accessible and we accept it. in any environment that we are, because once we start doing that, then we're able to offer not only professional help but simple things. I have noticed lately, last year alone in the workplace where I am, just they created like, let's create a garden for the people that work remotely. They sent everything, and it was just so beautiful to sit down, enjoy the meeting where I'm getting dirty and putting my hands on dirt and creating this plant for my desk. But they didn't see it the way that I saw it. For me, it was a healing moment, because now I had a new baby to care for. Now I had a responsibility on my desk, because I'm always the kind of person that kills plants. So now I had a new responsibility. But it was one of those things that, to me, I saw the second sense of that little thing that this company did. So again, it's about, what I'm trying to get across is we really, really had to start as leaders sharing these stories. So I actually shared this story with the person that did it. And I said, look, for you, it was something that maybe you just like gardening and everything, but it actually brought me healing. And now this year, I got invited to this new program where now they're doing a book club, and they're bringing all these motivational books and so on. But it just gave me that sense of security that, okay, they did care for me as a person. They really took my comments seriously, and now they're bringing new things that hopefully are going to help others heal. So again, it's about making sure that healing becomes acceptable, and it also becomes part of their normal practice, whether they provide professional help or just simple things like that.
Yeah. So we'll do Miley, Deanne, and then Dr. K-Tap. So Miley.
I think that you're right, that healing and this idea of rest are go hand in hand. I also think that we have to get to the point where we're not just talking the talk. I mean, I worked for an organization. They're like, yes, healing is important. Rest is important. We want you to take all of your PTO. But when push came to shove, no, that is not how they behaved. I wound up out of work because I had to have back surgery, right? And back surgery takes you out, right? You're out. But they made it as difficult as possible to get my disability and all of those things. Like, the systems that we've created value butts in the seats, show up and do your job, never rest. Those are the systems that we've created. So it's less that, yes, we can talk about, yeah, we want you to rest. But what are our systems doing that support that? And right now our systems are like, no, you got to fill out all this paperwork, and you may actually have to walk that paperwork into the office. So how do we change the systems so that they really support that in a real way?
Right. Deanne.
Yeah, this is such a great question. I love everything that has been said, and I agree with it all. We've talked about role modeling, permission, and that tone at the top for any of us who are leaders and work with teams, what we do and how we publicly talk about our need to rest and recharge and disconnect is really important, because it does give others permission to at least think about doing the same for themselves. We're talking about psychological safety, and for people feeling like they can ask to take a break, and that's okay, and there won't be any recourse or consequences. There's all the data, all the science, all the research that talks about how intentional disconnected time away from work actually equips you to come back with a better product, with more focus and all of that. So, I think we're at a really interesting place where rest at work gets other labels assigned to it. You're lazy, you don't have enough to do, maybe you're not the right fit here. If you look at a very high performing athlete or any a concert pianist or somebody who is really, really focused on their craft, they incorporate rest into their routine. It's part of their high performance strategy. It's not a luxury, it's a key ingredient. So again, when we think that rest is the opposite of work, I think it's actually what allows great work to happen. So I spend a lot of time today really encouraging leaders to treat reflection, renewal as a strategy, not a luxury. And the best leaders I know really don't just manage their energy, they absolutely protect it, because that's what fuels peak performance and sustainable success.
Right. And if we truly have collaboration, then when you do take time off and your team is collaborating together, then you don't have to worry and they don't have to worry and everybody's good, right? Dr. K-Tap.
I absolutely love this discussion, and I agree with what everyone else has said here today. The themes I'm hearing is people-centered connection, systems that need to be shifted, values. What are the values of these organizations? And like Deanne was saying also is if organizations, businesses, companies, all of that understood how rest leads to productivity, then leads to profits, oh yes, in no time at all, there would be a complete shift. So this discussion is so vital and important to continue to have so that the people at the top, so to speak, can understand that when at the root, we are well with our, not just the leaders at the top, but also those that are creating that connection within the company, organization, whatever, what have you, then it's going to be a completely different shift.
Right. Jamie.
So one of the things that we, going off of Maylee's concept of the systematic shift, is that we actually need to start showcasing more and more CEOs and top leaders who have done the same thing. Because right now, the rhetoric, especially in tech, is all the CEOs are coming in and saying, if you want to be successful, this is what you have to do. You have to put the hours in, you have to put the hours in, you have to put the hours in, you have to put the hours in. And part of that is that it's a sense of, if I had to do it, you have to do it, kind of mentality that they're bringing out. So our job over here is to start breaking that thing up. So we have to start saying and showcasing, hey, just because that's what they're saying and that's what they did does not mean that that's what success looks like. That doesn't mean that's how you can be successful or what the definition of success is and how the trajectory is. And the more we showcase these kind of conversations, the more likely we are to be able to start breaking that down and having people lean in and saying, oh, wait, success can look differently. And success can include healing. It can include rest. It can include reflection. We need to get a bigger voice out in the world because the inks that comes are constantly peppering people with what the CEOs out there, how many hours you have to work.
Yvonne.
Yeah, there's this huge RTO, return to office movement going on right now. And no awareness of how that impacts women and the child care that normally, or, dropping your kid off, like somebody said, at school in the morning, how that negatively impacts so many of us who are women. And so many great ideas have been shared here today. I was in a federal office. I was a federal public defender. And when I rose up enough to have some autonomy as the first assistant, it was in Honolulu, by the way, so aloha to the sisters who were here. That whole idea of the circle, incorporating that into the workforce, we got everyone to share how when you're in a trial and somebody's life is on the line for their freedom, that you need all hands on deck. Everybody from the secretaries to the clerks to every single lawyer needs to be available when that trial is going forward. And when it's over, people need to go, wow, we crossed the finish line. And so we instituted something called mental health days. And you got an allotted number of mental health days, no questions asked. The main challenge we had, because it was a federal office, was how to position that with the people who paid the payrolls. What was this person doing? Why were they gone? There was no acknowledgement that when you're in trial, that when you have these big deadlines, you work 70 hours a week because that's what the team needs. And when you cross that finish line, there needs to be a collective opportunity to breathe. And when we instituted those mental health days, despite the bureaucracy and the challenge we had getting it pushed through, we had the highest acquittal rate in the entire district. So it works, this circle idea of everybody pulling together in times of stress, and then go to the beach, go swim, go, be with your kids at their event they're having. You earned it. And there needs to be that flexibility in the corporate world, because that's life. That's how things go like this, and not just straightforward. So I love all these ideas that are coming out, and I hope we can ship it straight to the highest CEOs. I know there was some billionaire AI guy who was just getting so much attention because he was saying, "You have no idea how hard you have to work." I mean, I'm sure everybody saw that. "You're such wimps. It's like, you want the wealth, you have to work for it like I did." And it was just so macho and male and unhealthy. So all boats rise together is kind of, I think, what women bring to the world of work that's here today. And sometimes it's healthier for some people to be remote. Sorry, but it is. So you can have your dog on your feet and your baby at your breast, and you're still that creative. That would be just as efficacious sitting at her computer at the desk. Anyway, I'm preaching to the choir, but
Thank you, Yvonne. So that segues into our next question, which is just so apropos. What systems, corporate, government, or cultural, must evolve for feminine leadership to truly thrive? Danielle.
I really think that we have to think about what work is, what is valuable in our society, because productivity is key to staff. And I was actually that horrible boss when I started, because that's how I learned from a bunch of men, is they work for me, you're on my clock, get going. By the time I was out, all those years later, I couldn't afford to pay childcare, so I let everybody bring their kids to work. I still had the staff. I set up a computer in the back, but where they could destroy it if they needed to, because I knew how hard childcare was, and they were happier, and I was happier. We were all happier. But you have to break down the system of what is work, what is valuable, who is valuable to the society, to fight for just pay. Because right now we're in the era of, like, the more you sacrifice, the more you're going to get there. You got to burn it. You get 70-hour weeks. Like, I was that person at one point, and now as an entrepreneur, I still fight the conditioning, and I think a lot of us do. That
Absolutely.
to break apart that mindset.
Jamie.
I love where you're going with some of this, Danielle, is that I've been really looking at the concept of value. And when we break down how the pay gap is happening, and there was a specific person on LinkedIn who posted a new trend where actually the gap is widening. Somebody kept saying, yeah, but men are in more dangerous jobs and they are doing more hours. And I was sitting there going, fascinating, because what's the mortality rate for women in pregnancy here in the United States? We have one of the worst maternal mortality rates. Having a baby is actually more deadly than some of these deadly jobs. And if you are Black, it's significantly more deadly. So I think I did a quick quick little bit of numbers, Black women should be making 30% more just because of the threat, the risk of having a child. And when we think about the fact that even though not every woman wants to have a child, the societal burden is that for us to have a society, women have to carry children. So we have to start shifting, to Danielle's point, what our definition of work is, what value actually looks like, because women are bringing one of the most critical values to society by having another population for us to actually have a society.
Mm-hmm. Miley.
I saw this question, and the first thing I thought was all of the above. We need to change all of the above. But I mean, I think it one of the things that Danielle mentioned earlier is that we, if you grow up in an Indigenous community, you really start to embrace this idea. You not only live collectivism, right? You don't live individualism. You live collectivism, and individualism is what has created the culture, the government, the corporations that we live in now. That's why it's like, well, I did this by my bootstraps, when literally pulling yourself up by your bootstraps is impossible. But let's not talk about that. But the fact of the matter is that it's, if we live in this society where it's like, oh, I'm gonna take care of me. And in Hawaii, in particular, you get this society of I'm gonna take care of my net, right? Like this community that we create. And that is what allows us to do different things. That is what allows us to live differently. Now, don't get me wrong, Hawaii hasn't got it perfectly correct, right? But Hawaiian culture in general, that sense of pilina, of connection, that sense of, you know, I'm gonna watch out for my community, the village that we've heard people talk about for a little while, and then it kind of went away. Like that village is really, really important. That's what we have to do, is break away from this idea of like, oh, I'm going to do it all on my own, you know, one man alone against the universe, you know, and it's not that. It's all of us together. We in Hawaii, we say it's a kapo thing, right? It's all of us.
Mm-hmm. Silka.
I totally agree with that. And I also think, building on from that, you know, from getting rid of the lone wolf mentality, is the way we evaluate performance at work. Because right now, in all the jobs where people earn a performance bonus, etc., it's just hard figures and numbers. Now, of course, the hard figures and numbers will always be necessary in business, because that's the way we can tell if we are actually turning a profit or if we're going to be bankrupt next week. But, you know, at the moment, the only thing that counts when you go for your employee talk once a year is how well you performed in terms of time, in terms of money, in terms of how much profit you turned for the company. But I think just as important for your personal performance is how well you did in terms of how kind you were to your team, you know, how much compassion you created within your environment, and all these factors that are written off as esoteric and spiritual and whatever in the corporate world. I feel they are just as important as the financial KPIs to actually truly evaluate your performance, you know, how well you did. Because when we as a team member or even as a leader go out there and create a loving environment that everyone feels comfortable in and happy in, we will actually increase the financial performance of the company, because happy employees turn over much more money. I mean, it's a simple thing, you know. So I think that's a very important system that needs to change, the way we are being evaluated for our performance at work.
Yeah. I think that fighting the systems is sort of pointless, because the way of the patriarchy is to push against and is to fight against, right? And it's a constant competition and strength match. And we know, those of us, all of us, we know that that doesn't work, right? We've never gotten ahead in those systems by pushing against anything in those systems. So my philosophy and what I've been trying to sort of make catch on is the idea of the storm surge, right? That we stop pushing against those systems, that we stop participating in those systems, and that we kind of step over here and do our own. We create our own way, create our own systems, whether it's healthcare, finance, law, whatever. We come over here and we create our own, something that works for us. And then the storm surge happens and they really have no other choice than to adopt our new way, right? Because if we all start operating on that, in that way, and in that collaborative, loving, empathetic, inclusive way, it's ease. It's beautiful. It's ease. And they can't keep fighting if we're doing it already. You know what I mean? There's just no way that they can't join in. So I call it the storm surge, because the storm surge, you don't see it coming, and then all of a sudden the water rises, right? So if we're just out there doing it and making it happen, then this is my vision for the world. Thank you. So how do we mentor? Oh, sorry, Jamie, go ahead.
That's okay. It just kind of brought me back to the whole, Maylee was talking about the concept of community. And to do that, community and collaboration is so important. And that's, if there's one thing that I hope that each woman on this call goes away with, is find community. Because when we get in that zone, magic happens. Right. And yeah, we can actually do the storm surge. Mm-hmm. Is that right?
Yeah, storm surge. Yeah, and that is one thing that we are focused on with She Is Me, is building community and building community leaders. So, teaching women how to build the community within their communities, right? How do you step up and create that place where community happens? So that's what we're focused on. I'm really excited about it. But how do we mentor the next generation to lead differently, to build community instead of empires? To build legacy, right, instead of empires. Yes, Bernice.
I'm trying to work on that as right now. I was blessed with just daughters. And so one of the things that I do is, even with simplest chores, one does the dishes, the other one puts them away. And once they start like complaining, she didn't do it or anything, is like we have this little meeting, and it's like sitting down and understanding why your role is important, why my role is important, why we should help each other and not be waiting for one to be told when to. So I'm tying that to how I'm mentoring them for the future, because the future is relying on each other. The future is about community. We hear it all the time. I hear it all the time, even with individuals that I'm coaching or meeting. They're like, I just want to build community. I want to find a place where I feel that I'm needed. And I think that's what I hear a lot. I want to know that what I can contribute is what you need. So I think it's about taking the best out of everybody and using that and mixing it into the needs of what is needed in a company, in an organization, in a community group, whatever it is, and then using them for that, and then allowing them to just, again, embrace themselves and see more of their goods rather than their imperfections. Because I think that's where we get so tight sometimes, where we start thinking, oh, I'm not perfect for this, and then we start backing off and not building these new communities. I'm going to stick to communities now rather than empires and organizations and all that stuff. These new communities, whether it is in the workplace or outside the workplace.
Right. And one thing that we're really focused on is a third place. And I don't know if you know this concept, but men have a third place, right? They have work, they have home, and they usually have a third place. They play golf with their buddies, they go play poker, they do something else, belong to a club, I don't know, there's all kinds of moose, lodge, elks, whatever. They have a third place. Women usually don't. We have one or two places. If we work from home and we have kids, we have one place. If we do go to work, we have two places. We don't have time for that third place. And we cannot build community with each other without that third place. And that's our focus, is building those third places, building that community place in some way for women. Jamie.
So I want to kind of piggyback off of Bernice, because I have the opposite. I have both boys. And so I look at how do I raise them to ignore the stories that are being told, that they are supposed to be a certain way, and how do they embrace another way? How do they embrace community, and how do they move away from the idea that as a boy and a man, they're supposed to go after the empire? So similar thing, but it's just on the opposite end, that we, for us that are raising children, it's looking at not just how we fill the girls up and lift them up, but also how do we start to reprogram the boys so that they don't fall into the same traps of generations previously, and heal from these stories.
Mm-hmm. Silka.
So I think leading on from obviously teaching your children at home, because that's where it all starts, we can go as leaders into our companies and start changing the actual hierarchies. We need to change from the vertical hierarchies to circles, because when you come together in a circle, everyone starts opening up and starts talking. So I experienced something very interesting that way years ago, not to do with work now. I actually went for a 2-week retreat where we all went out onto Dartmoor in England, and we lived like our ancestors on the land. So every day ended with a speaking circle where every person would share anything at all they wanted to share about the day, how they felt, whatever. And in the beginning, everyone was sitting there because we all came from our usual backgrounds, in everyday life. We were all corporates working for this, whatever entrepreneurs. And everyone was very uptight. Everyone was scared to speak. But the more it developed, the more everyone realized that when you're sitting in circle and you're listening to each other with respect, the more everyone was opening up, even the men who were actually the most uptight in the beginning because they didn't like all the woo-woo, even they started completely opening up. And by the end of 2 weeks, we had circle shares that were so beautiful that people were openly crying in front of 20 other people and not feeling bad about it, or they were laughing, or we were cheering each other on or celebrating something. So the actual structure of being in circle, which was invented by our ancestors already, the Neolithic people would sit in circle around the fire and talk about their day. I think we need to go right back to this very basic of humanity, even in our work. And by doing so, we would actually teach the young generation how to be more open, because the circle encourages talking. The vertical hierarchy encourages nothing apart from shutting up and taking your orders.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What does it mean for women to not just rise individually, but to bring others with them as they ascend? I think we touched on that a little bit earlier about, I don't remember who said it, but the water rises, all the boats rise. Miley.
Yeah, the high tide raises all ships, right? So
Thank you.
it's the end of a day. I get it. But I think that one of the things that I love here, and I see women in my community doing it, they're keeping an eye out, right? They're looking for other women. And I think that's one of the things that we've hoped is that women will come into our sphere and we'll be able to take them with us. But we have to actively look for those women. We have to see that spark and say, oh, I want to blow that spark and have it grow into a flame, right? Like that we have to look for it. Because sometimes women, I mean, often women will come in, and if you're the kind of energy that attracts women into your circle, then it happens. But a lot of times it doesn't. So how are we looking for that? How are we watching for it and making sure that, hey, and then teaching that to the next generation, right? It's not just for us. We should be looking 9 generations down the road about what it's going to look like for them. So we do it. We teach others to do it. We set it as this is the way. This is not an anomaly. This is the way. And I think that's really what it is. We've got to be always looking to bring people with us.
Jamie.
It just made me think of like how our ancestors, would actually pass things down. It's like an oral history. You learned how to cook through generations and generations. And I love that kind of thinking longer term than just this next generation. So Maylee, I just wanted to kind of like say that was beautiful. And the thought is it's already there. It's just now we're so out of practice. We have to start practicing. And you're right. We have to look for it, but also be so intentional about being like, even if the spark's not right there, you got to put more work into it, right? Mm-hmm. The relationships take time, and we have to remember that they take time, and that over time we grow and we can move the needle together.
Right. Yvonne.
I think what can expedite that authenticity, intimacy, and connection is if people are together in those circles in real time. Mm-hmm. I think the world is so sick of the virtual from COVID forward. I mean, we're blessed to have had it. Look at how we are here today from all over the world. But people are longing for being together right now. And if you can do a 3-day retreat, I mean, it's like not 2 weeks, like you were saying, but even 3 days, it's like that will cement a kind of heartfelt connection between a team for years to come. It's so critical right now. That's why your ship at sea sounds like such an amazing experience, Lisa. Yeah, I mean, just the coming together and sharing. Mm-hmm. It's like, I mean, if we were in a circle right now live, it would be 1,000 times enhanced.
Yes.
And that legacy that you're talking about from caveman days of when we told stories around the fire, it's the storytelling of who we are and what's in our heart. And it's actually statistically and scientifically been certified, if you will, that when you're together and you share deep emotion with another person, it's called neurocoupling, that you are connected to them in the limbic region of your brain. It's like it connects people. It's unforgettable. In that connection that happens when you share deeply, it's how we're wired as human beings. So I think if we can bring face-to-face time together I mean, it's like they're sort of symbolic circles, but bring people together, it's transformational, and have them tell their stories.
Agree. And that's what we're trying to do with our leadership programs and our community building programs, is bringing people together. Because I've told this story. We just had the No Kings protests going on, and I wasn't quite sure who was going to show up in my town I live in a town of about 18,000, so I wasn't quite sure who was going to be here. And I went down the street. It was right down the street from my house. I went down the street, and about half the town showed up. There were just blocks and blocks of people standing and waving and happy, and so happy to be face to face. I've lived here 3 years, and I met people that I'm sure I've passed in the grocery store, but have never met in person. We exchanged phone numbers, and we've been texting, and we were going to meet for lunch and all these wonderful things. I think everybody was so happy to just have that face-to-face, like-minded, beautiful connection out there. It was absolutely lovely, and that's what we're trying to build, with these programs that we've built over the last couple of years, and getting women together and building these programs and bringing community and teaching each other and telling stories and inspiring one another and empowering one another and supporting one another and lifting each other up, because we can't survive without it, and no one's coming to save us, right? We have to do it ourselves. So I wrote this last question. We've got about 9 minutes left. I wrote this last question from my lens of she is me and what we're doing, but feel free to answer it on your own, from your own lens. But I wrote, if we were to build a new world tomorrow, what would leadership look like, and how would she is me guide its blueprint? But you can answer it from your own space. It's a tough one. Miley.
It's a really big question. Like, it's a really big question. And I don't think 9 minutes is enough, but here's what I'll say in short. Leadership would look like inclusion regardless of race, economic, socioeconomic status, education. It doesn't matter. None of that stuff matters. So is that, right? And to a certain extent, like in my brain, I think leadership looks like Star Trek, right? The world is a great place. Everybody takes care of everybody. We're all in this together. We see that. I'm a huge nerd. But that world of Star Trek was so great to me because everybody was there. Everybody's included. You don't even look like me, like from the same planet, and we're still including you, right? And truly hearing what you have to say and valuing who you are, where
and
you're
trusting you. Yeah.
And trusting you, right? That's what it looks like. And I think from the lens of She Is Me, this ability to share stories, to share community is one of the first steps to that. I can hate somebody I don't know. I can't hate somebody when I know their story.
Beautiful.
That's beautiful. Deanne.
Yeah. Love this. I love your answer as well. So I think we always have to go back and start with awareness. Great leadership always starts with great awareness. We've talked about compassion. We've talked about courage. We've talked about inclusion. But I think any great leader really stays grounded in their purpose and stays fueled by empathy. I honestly believe empathy is one of those unsung heroes of great, amazing leadership. Because humanity should be the strategy, not just a sentiment. And again, Lisa, I think what you and the team have done with She and Me, but She Is Me should be a great reminder that in a safe space, that when women are able to form that community and when we are able to lead from a place of awareness and wholeness, we won't just change organizations. We will change all of what is possible all throughout the world. So I think that is part of the future that we are already building, deeply rooted in community. And thank you for having this amazing space to do that.
Thank you. Silke. Oh, she's frozen.
Way forward around the world to make sure that everyone is included, that every person on this planet gets a opportunity to earn their money, to create their own wealth, because in my perfect world, we wouldn't even need money, but the hard truth is that we are still living in the financial system. So for every person on this planet to live well, they will need money. So for me, the perfect world right now would be going forward into the future for all leaders to ensure that there is enough money, enough abundance, enough prosperity for not one single person on this planet to have to go hungry tonight.
Love that. Yeah. Jamie.
All right, how do you follow that? That's beautiful to think about leadership from the sense of humanity, right? That ultimately, as a leader, we're not leading for the bottom line, but we're actually leading humanity to the next level. To Melee's point, the level of a Star Trek version. Maybe not, maybe not Captain Kirk. Questionable, but Picard and
Next Generation, yes,
Janeway,
Next Generation.
I think.
Definitely.
Yeah. I mean, if you want to study on leadership, those episodes are brilliant, and my husband's a Trekkie, but like the humanity piece of it, and when I use humanity, I'm looking at it even beyond, like, if you think about Star Trek, it's systems. Oh my
It's
gosh,
every sentient
I've lost
being
brain cells now.
in the universe.
But when we think about bringing it back, every sentient being, thank you. Yeah, it's how we actually look at it and say, how do we make sure that everybody's taken care of? To Selke's point, how do we take this and bring us forward even more as a society and care for each other in community?
Yeah. Dr. K-Tap.
Everyone's answer has been so beautiful this evening. Deanne, you mentioned the word wholeness. And so when you think about wholeness within ourselves, as a community, as a globe, as the universe as a whole, not just human beings, but all living beings as well. So wholeness comes to mind, respect and unconditional love as well for leadership. And that starts within ourselves as well. And once we're able to do that, then it's a rippling effect that happens. And of course, abundance, you mentioned abundance and wealth, making sure that everyone is able to eat and be happy and enjoy the journey, not just the destination, but enjoying the journey of leadership also. And I see that, Lisa, you're really doing such an amazing job, and your team, with this movement that you're creating. And I'm so thankful to be a part of it on this journey with you all.
Yvonne.
Oh no, I was just celebrating you.
Oh,
just saying 100%. The only thing I would add to everything that's been said, that as leaders, we will always be looked to. And so our self-care is so eminently critical. If we can take the time we need to rest, to love, to hike, to smell the roses, what an example that is to our team. So on that note, off to an evening sunset hike. And thank you for a wonderful 90 minutes, Lisa.
Thank you all so much for joining me today. You all are wonderful examples of what the world needs in leadership. I appreciate your time, your experience and your wisdom, and coming here and sharing this all with us today. You are loved, and enjoy your weekend, and thank you so much.
Hello, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.